with Kristaps Porziņģis not playing in this game with a sprained wrist, he's out indefinitely. All of a sudden, it felt like this was a game that the Jazz should, could, and would win. And then all of a sudden, you were like, uh-oh, they're down almost double digits. Guards are dominating the paint, and the Jazz just don't look like the same team that went on, whatever that was, a double-digit winning streak in January. They don't look like that same team that's dominated the Western Conference all season and really has dominated the NBA. What happened in Dallas last night?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what we've been telling you guys for quite some time, which is that teams with a stockpile of smaller, quick guards who can create matchup issues gave them a lot of trouble last night. And again, this isn't. I feel like I say this every single day. A lot of these issues that these guards cause for the Jazz, like it's not even an indictment on Rudy. Like Rudy's doing everything that he can do. The problem is he's only one guy. I mean, he may have, the whatever it is, a 9-foot wingspan, but that's not enough in the league to cover all that ground, So it was one of two things. They were pulling the Jazz out away from the basket towards the 3-point line, and then they were attacking the paint. Or when the Jazz weren't pushing out, they were shooting the three. You've got a bunch of guys last night, whether it's Finney Smith or whether it's Hardaway or anybody else, or even Luka, obviously, who are making a ton of shots. And we were listening to the broadcast, and they were all, hyped about it. And I'm just sitting here saying, these are NBA guys, man. These are looks that they need to be knocking down. And I think the biggest thing here, and the thing that I would say is that the Jazz, the Mavericks didn't win this game. The Jazz just didn't play well, in my opinion. They didn't come out. They didn't shoot well. It just didn't seem like they were ready. And the more concerning thing, the bigger issue here is that it's not like this was the last game on a road trip. It's not like you'd played like 10 in a row and you were tired and you were just kind of in that place as a team. This is the first of many, and they're not easy ones. And that may be the most concerning thing of the whole situation.
Well, and I guess the bigger question I have is, when do the Jazz make an adjustment? They didn't do it at the trade deadline. They didn't do it in buyout season. And now all of a sudden here we are in early April, and it still feels like the Utah Jazz haven't made an adjustment to teams that have quick guards that attack the paint. And late in the game we saw it with Tim Hardaway Jr., but I think Finney Smith, certainly early in this game, and I don't know why they didn't do it more, because we saw the switch of Rudy Gobert onto a guard that's athletic who can shoot the three and get to the cup. And early in the game, the Mavericks were not trying to take advantage of that. Late in the game, Tim Hardaway Jr. 3 times took advantage of that. And I'll say again what we've said all season, not to be redundant, but what we've said all season is, if you have quick guards that can shoot the three, you'll switch them on to Rudy Gobert. We saw it with the Clippers. We've seen it multiple times where teams attack Rudy Gobert on the pick and roll with guard play. They force him into the corner. He is a non-factor protecting the rim. And all of a sudden, it is a pretty easy finish in the paint for the opponent. In this case, it was the Dallas Mavericks. And Jake, again, I'm not trying to be negative Nicola, but I don't know how you fix this if you're the Utah Jazz. I truly don't see a way that they can, at this late hour, add to the roster or magically become a better defensive team, because I think at this point, based on their age and their makeup, they are who they are.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about becoming a better defensive team, the hope is that, okay, we're just not executing on defense. We're not sticking to our assignments, or we're not switching properly or communicating, or whatever the case may be. But that's not the issue for the Jazz. I mean, most nights they're pretty locked in. The bigger issue is that they don't have an answer for fixing this, because they don't have the personnel to fix it. They don't have the roster to fix what teams are doing to them, which is just to simply say that early in games, just as you were just talking about with the Mavericks last night, teams are going to push out on defense and stop them from making a lot of threes. And then when the opposition is on offense and the Jazz are playing defense, they're going to attack the paint, and they're going to try and, establish that interior presence, because they know once they establish the interior presence, once they establish the fact that they will drive, that they will get those high percentage looks in the paint, what does that do? That forces the Jazz to collapse. That allows the Mavericks in this case to create great pick and roll matchups, And all of a sudden, you're in this position where the Jazz are going 4 of 21 or whatever it was last night from three, and the Mavericks are getting all these high percentage looks in the paint, which is why so often, if you go back, whether it's against good teams or bad teams, the Jazz get outscored in the paint almost on a nightly basis because of the way they play the game. And so, no, I don't think there is a fix. And I think the solution, just like it's been all year, they're just going to have to shoot better from three. It's that simple. You're either going to make these shots or you're not going to make these shots. We see the night that they make those shots and they're shooting the 45% from three that we're accustomed to, and you've got Niang coming off the bench, you've got Jingles coming off the bench, you've got Bogdanovich making his, you've got all these great guys making threes, they win games. The problem is, and again, I would tell you guys, go back and reference this because we told you this 3 weeks ago, the issue is that you cannot expect any team in the league to make the three ball at plus 40% for an entire NBA season or the postseason. That is the issue.
Yeah, and I also think one of the more interesting things that happened last night was Donovan Mitchell being out of this game for long stretches, I think really showed you how important Mike Conley is to this team. Mm-hmm. And again, that's a little scary because I don't think you can count on Mike Conley to play heavy minutes every single night down the stretch. And when I look at the box on this game, it's crazy to say, but Donovan Mitchell played 35 minutes in this game. Mm. And having watched just about every minute of it, it felt like he played 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like it felt like he was gone for long stretches. And the struggle is that when Donovan's off the court, they're not as good defensively. They're certainly not as dynamic offensively. And yes, Mike Conley had 28 last night, 6 of 10 from three, outstanding.
Yep.
I mean, the problem is they are a team, in my opinion, that when one player makes half of their threes, because the Utah Jazz last night were 12 of 44 from three. Yeah. You're not going to win.
See, and if you think about it, like going 12 of 44 from three in this game, this is a game that I was going in thinking, hey, like this would be a game that I would watch out for if I was the Jazz in terms of, when I look at the schedule and I say, hey, what are the games where we really need to show up? Like who are the teams that they may not be the best team in the West, right? Like the Mavericks, they may not be anything to write home about. But at the same time, they're good enough to beat you, which is what happened last night. So this is a game on the schedule where I'm like, hey, like we definitely have to show up for this game. We can't just kind of roll in here. This isn't the Bulls, man. This isn't the Rockets. You know what I mean? This team is good enough to beat you.
This isn't the Sexland Cavaliers,
which is ridiculous to me. I don't understand how that reference was made.
They're now calling the Cleveland Cavaliers Sexland.
Yeah. Okay.
Apologize to that man.
You should apologize to that man.
It's embarrassing, dude.
You should.
It's embarrassing.
I mean, Sexton's a heck of a player, but are we really calling Cleveland Sexland?
Apparently.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, how stupid is that? Anyway, the point is the Dallas Mavericks are dangerous. But, and I'm sure I'm going to get how harsh I'm being or whatever, it's inexcusable to lose to the Dallas Mavericks when they don't have Kristaps Porziņģis.
It's really unfair.
I mean, seriously, you look at Luka Doncic last night. I mean, he dominated. By the way, the other thing that I thought was so interesting, please don't tell me that the Utah Jazz don't get calls. Please don't tell me that Rudy Gobert doesn't get calls. Rudy Gobert got away with nearly murder, and so did the Dallas Mavericks, by the way.
Mm-hmm. They let him play. I mean, there's no doubt.
Luka Doncic goes up for a layup, and Rudy Gobert is holding the armpit of his jersey. Mm-hmm. I don't want to hear a single complaint about the officiating in this game because it was good and bad on both ends. But there is no question in my mind, Rudy Gobert got away with a lot last night, and I actually like that they let him play. I like a more physical brand of basketball. But my point is the fatal flaw of the Jazz was on clear display last night. I don't feel like they learned anything from that Philly loss, which I thought was really telling because the same things are happening. Again, guards getting into the paint, getting into Rudy Gobert's chest, attacking the middle of the paint on the Jazz. That's how you beat this team.
But here's my question: what is it? What are they going to do? Like, the issue for the Jazz is they don't have recourse. There's nothing they can do because of, once again, the way the roster is constructed. It's not like so they can't say to themselves, as an example, hey, well, at the beginning of games, we know that the guards for the opposition are going to be attacking the paint. Okay, Rudy, you got to be on, red alert. Okay, well, Rudy's on red alert on every possession. So what difference does that make, right?
Yeah.
So you take him out of the picture. The real question is, how are they going to play defense early in games to keep teams from getting into the paint consistently? Because it's unfair and it's unrealistic. I don't care if you're Joel Embiid, Rudy Gobert, or any other big in this league. You can't expect your big to stop everything. I mean, that's just not realistic.
No, but I think you have to find a way to handicap your bigger forwards. I think you have to find a way, like Bogdanovich is probably the perfect example to this.
Mm-hmm.
You have to find a way to help him defensively. I think you have to find a way to help guys like Mike Conley. And Mike Conley is still a good defensive guard, but he's not staying in front of the Finney Smiths. He's not staying in front of the Hardaways.
No.
Even your best defender, I think very clearly is Royce O'Neal.
Right.
And no, go ahead, please.
Well, what I was going to say with Royce is that you're not putting him on a guard. You're putting him on the best player on the other team.
Yeah, and so it becomes a problem. I don't know. I don't think there's a way to fix it, and that's why I call it the fatal flaw.
Mm-hmm.
I think the fatal flaw of this team is the pick and roll switches ad nauseum. You have to find a way not to switch that pick and roll. You have to find a way, and I also think there is some credence to playing Bogdanovich, Favors, and Rudy on the floor at the same time. I don't know how you accomplish that.
Yeah.
Because that's going to create other issues, especially offensively, because who's off the floor at that point?
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously Bogdanovich is going to be the guy that comes up short, but I would also say he's done a really nice job of developing a game in the paint, finishing at the cut Bogdanovich has, because he has really struggled to shoot the basketball, and it's been a huge problem for them.
Yeah.
So when you look at the way that Bogdanovich has changed his game, there's a lot more back to the basket. There's a lot more, high post. There's a lot more finish at the cup. And I think that's really helped the Utah Jazz. But I look at some of the numbers last night. Bogdanovich only shoots 3 threes. That's not enough.
Yeah.
Especially on a night where Donovan Mitchell is 0 for 8. And the other thing that I think you really have to talk about in this game for the Utah Jazz, and I think this is really important, how many times can we talk about Donovan Mitchell and everybody else? Donovan Mitchell goes 0 of 8 from 3 last night, only gives you 16 points. Only gives you 16 points, and you lose.
What's the final score?
111, 108.
So, I mean, at the end of the day...
And you were in this game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, if Donovan's not producing, they're not going to win. I mean, that's what we're looking at. You can't... And I guess really the better way to say it is you can't have... you can't have Donovan not produce and then you also not shoot threes, right? You can't go, what did you say, 12 of 44 or whatever it was last night. You can't have that and Donovan not producing. And I just think that this is when I say that I am concerned about this team and their ability to get to the NBA Finals. This is what I'm talking about. Like, think about it. You're in the postseason. Whether we'll get to the Nuggets, but like whether it's the Nuggets, the Clippers, any of these teams that you're going to potentially see in the postseason, like they are smart teams. The Clippers are not just going to get into a shooting fest with you. They understand that they can do more. They understand that they can get better looks. They understand that they can get you in foul trouble and dictate the pace to you. And so that's why I say it's so disappointing that we watched the teams like the Nuggets and all these other teams in the league get better, and the Jazz have the same roster because the guys they added don't play. They're just not. They're not of consequence. And so I just don't know. If you're the Jazz, I don't know what you do to counter this. I don't know.
Well, I think you have to get Bogdanovich shooting threes again. That's what this team really misses. When they're good and the Utah Jazz are firing on all cylinders, Bogdanovich is shooting threes and making them.
Yeah.
And I think you have got to fix that. When you shoot 44 threes and you lose, that's not good. That's a problem. Because that's exactly what this Jazz team wants to do. By the way, don't know how many people saw it. The Phoenix Suns won last night. The lead is 2.5 in the Western Conference. Any idea where the Jazz are going to be on Wednesday night?
I don't know. I think it was somewhere warm, right?
Valley of the Sun, baby. It is Jazz and Suns at the Phoenix Suns Arena in downtown Phoenix. I think it's a must-win for both. I think if you are the Suns and you have any aspirations of winning the Western Conference championship, or getting the number one seed and winning the conference championship, you have to have this game Wednesday night.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I think that this is definitely a playoff matchup. This is definitely a game to for both teams to measure themselves. I think if you're a Jazz fan, you're sitting here saying, yeah, we're definitely better than the Suns, and I would agree with that. You're a better team, but I also agree with the fact that the Suns are more than capable of beating you. The Suns are a very capable team. They're very well coached. Last night, most people listening probably didn't watch Suns Rockets. Last night, the Suns were in a pretty tight game with the Rockets who were pushing them, and they were able to execute down the stretch, make shots, hit free throws, do everything that you need to do to win an NBA game. And so, I look at this matchup. The thing that excites me about it is for a fact that Devin Booker is going to be hyped for this game. And if Donovan Mitchell, doesn't show up and give you 30, this game's going to be really close, like really close.
Yeah, the interesting thing about that Suns game last night, I thought, was they got exactly what they wanted. They designed, and I think this is something that really separates who the Suns were versus who they are.
Mm-hmm.
In a late game situation where you have clearly played down to the Rockets all night long. No John Wall, no really anybody. Kenyon Martin Jr. is dunking on you. We get it.
Right.
You've played down to the Rockets all night. And I thought what was really interesting was the Suns drew up a play and they executed it perfectly. Now, Book didn't finish. They got in the ball in the high post at the elbow. He backed down his defender and got his patented fadeaway three or a fadeaway jumper, and he missed it.
Wet like on Book.
But the point is, they got exactly what they wanted.
Yeah.
Where they wanted it, with who they wanted it, and he just didn't finish the J. But what that demonstrates to me is this is not your same old team.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at that game last night, looking at Mikal Bridges, looking at Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder clearly is not the same player that he was, but he's contributing in different ways, still able to hit that three. This is a difficult team to go up against. Chris Paul is exactly what this team needed. Now, again, I think he has a double-double last night. I think 16 and 10. That's points and dimes. He is having a major impact on the game in every facet. If you're the Utah Jazz, this game on Wednesday truly is a measuring stick, and I think it's a must-win.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, because if you lose this game, if you're the Jazz and you lose this game, now all of a sudden things are getting tight. Now all of a sudden, we're not just cruising with a 5-game lead in the West. Now all of a sudden we're not, we don't have room to, botch a game against the Mavericks. We that's just not an option anymore. And I would tell you that let's say that the Jazz do win this game, I still think the Suns are going to push them for the 1 seed. I really do. I think it'll be tight all the way to the end of the season. And I love your point about the Devin Booker play at the end of the game, because that's a shot that he is going to make consistently, and he just happened to miss that one. But I could totally see it. Think about it. You run that play against the Jazz, you're going to get him switched on to Bogey, and he's going to go to work. And that's just what it's going to be.
By the way, I thought it was really interesting that, the Nuggets had the night off to watch both of these games and kind of understand who's who and what's what.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was really interesting. And if I'm the Denver Nuggets, I'm paying close attention to that game tomorrow night. And by the way, they host the Pistons tonight, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, the Nuggets do. Their general manager was on the Jim Rome show yesterday. And obviously, we've talked a lot about the Aaron Gordon trade. And it is probably the most impactful trade that took place at the deadline amongst real, legitimate title contenders. I think that Aaron Gordon deal was probably the highlight of the trade deadline. And there is a very specific reason why the Denver Nuggets went out and got Aaron Gordon. And I think this bite right here explains it perfectly.
Now, we needed a guy like him who had versatility on both ends. Almost liken it to like a left tackle in football, a guy who protects your best player and quarterback and also helps them. And I think he both helps and protects Nikola with his defensive versatility and his ability to just play physically. He's a real man out there. So we thought he'd be a good fit. He allows us to do a lot of things defensively. He's I think a really competitive guy and a guy that takes pride in his defense. So we kind of crossed our fingers, and he's been fantastic thus far.
How impactful do you think? How impactful do you think Aaron Gordon's going to be in a Jazz Nuggets matchup.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's going to be really impactful. I think that, so Tim Connolly there, GM of the Nuggets, his main point there is they signed him for defense, and essentially, everything else is a cherry on top. They understand that offense isn't their problem, but defense is, and they understand that when they're playing half court games, that they need a guy who can switch everything. They need a guy that is more than happy to meet you at the rim. And I think Aaron Gordon has shown that he is just a flexible player on both ends of the floor. So what I mean is hey, you need him to play, low block defense. Okay, great. He can do that. You want him to switch on to, we were watching him in one of the first games as a Nugget. They played the Hawks. He switched right on to Trae Young, made it very difficult on Trae Young. And Trae was forced into a difficult step back three.
Yes.
Like it was impressive. And so, when you have a guy like that who's versatile on defense, that gives you a lot of different options, not only to switch everything, but matchups and just everything that goes into it. And then the offensive end is really where I think he's getting a lot more attention right now for the off-the-ball stuff, for the fact that, he can really go and rebound. He's more than happy to play the pick-and-roll game and roll to the basket. So I just think he's unselfish, and he gives them a lot of options, which is dangerous.
And he can catch the basketball.
Mm-hmm.
So, by the way, Tim Conley, the president of basketball operations for the Nuggets, please get his title right. Anyway, the point is, thank you, Jake. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
The point is, the other thing that I think Aaron Gordon does really well is he catches the ball. I mean, and I know this sounds foolish, but I'll go back to my old basketball coach, Ron Sapolcek, Round Lake Panther basketball. And he used to say, if you can catch the basketball on this team, you can play. You can play on this team if you can catch the ball.
I want better fucking execution.
Truth. There's so many guys in this league who can't catch the ball. You see it every night. When you watch NBA basketball, you watch how many guys can't catch the ball, who can't catch a bad pass, who can't catch a low pass. Aaron Gordon in traffic will catch the ball. He's got good, strong hands, and he's going to get up and finish. He's still got hops. He's still got springs. And this is one of the things that I haven't understood about the criticism of this trade. Mm-hmm. Aaron Gordon can still defend at a high level. There aren't many guys in this league that Gordon's going to struggle to defend. And I think it is an overestimate of how much he's fallen off. Or, and what does your guy Drake say? They said I fell off, thanks I needed that. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what Aaron Gordon needed. Maybe Aaron Gordon needed to hear the critics. Because since he's gotten to Denver, he's clearly been re-energized, and they've been re-energized by him. And again, whether you're the Jazz, the Suns, the Lakers, the Clippers, it doesn't matter. Aaron Gordon has made Nikola Jokic a more dangerous weapon on offense because now you have to respect Jokic's space in that he is going to make that pass. He can shoot the three, he can get to the rim, he can rebound, he can bang, and he can pass. And he's got a guy in the paint now who can get dirty and catch the basketball. That's a huge advantage for the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah.
And when you look at a wounded Laker team, I just don't see the Lakers being a factor this year. It would take a miraculous turnaround.
Agreed.
For the LA Lakers to be a factor. I look at the chemistry issues that are sapping the LA Clippers. I'm telling you, the Western Conference is going to come down to the Nuggets, the Jazz, and the Suns, and I think it's Nuggets and Jazz. I just don't see, I don't believe in DeAndre Ayton enough to think that he can handle a Rudy Gobert, a Nikola Jokic. I don't believe enough in the way that the Suns execute offensively, their depth, enough to think that they can compete with the Nuggets, that they can compete with the Jazz. It's going to be fascinating to watch, though. This game Wednesday night, tomorrow night, I am as excited as I can be.
Yeah.
For Jazz and Suns tomorrow night.
I'm with you, dude.
That's a huge, as big as a regular season game can be, I think.
Yeah, if you're a Jazz fan, this is absolutely a must-watch game for you. I mean, if you're somebody who's on this show every day, you're watching the Jazz, you're following them, and you're paying attention, you gotta watch this game. I mean, this is definitely a potential postseason matchup.
Yes.
This is definitely a great game for the Jazz to measure themselves on. And I think this is, when everybody calls this the Devin Booker show, come Thursday, if he puts up 40 in that game, y'all are going to hear about it because this is the kind of game when Devin Booker shows up and makes a huge difference.
Yep, totally agree with that. Make sure you hit subscribe. Give us a thumbs up on the old YouTube machine if you're watching the show. Really appreciate that. We have had so much support on YouTube kind of validates the decision we made. A lot of people ask about, Periscope. Well, Periscope's dead. Periscope's
Sad
no
day.
longer in business.
We did this show on Periscope for, like 4 years?
Yeah, a long time.
Long time, man.
A long time. We were on Periscope and loved it. Periscope was a great platform. But YouTube has been really good for us. So appreciate you subscribing. Give us a thumbs up. It really helps the show grow. We are, what did Gabe Ledley say? Mediocre or not mediocre. Meteorically.
Meteorically.
There's a Freudian slip when I said we were mediocre. Hey, look.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Cocaine's a hell of a drug. My point is, it's been a meteoric rise of mediocrity here on YouTube.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Oh, man. Anyway, the point is, Eric and Raleigh is developing a reputation for being consistently unhappy.
Okay.
Right? He said, I still wish you guys were on a platform where I could listen and do other things on my phone.
Well,
look, man, porn's going to be there. Trust me. When the show's over, you can still strengthen your forearms. It's an hour of your day that'll change your life.
Here's the game plan.
Those are rookie numbers.
Yeah.
The point...
Pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
The point is, we appreciate you guys watching the show. And Eric, I know it's a big, it's encumbering and it's difficult. And